So, when I first started kind of dipping my toe in the water of expressing my beliefs and putting my ideas out there and speaking up and doing YouTube and all of this stuff, I wasn't even going to vote for Donald Trump. This wasn't even a thought in my mind back in February. In fact, my concerns were much less about who held the office of the presidency, but were more about the impact of things like identity politics, social justice, critical race theory on all aspects of our culture, literally making people insane. Now, over the course of many months, I first evolved to voting for Donald Trump because I wanted to give a middle finger to the Democrats who were supporting all this nonsense. And then once Trump banned critical race theory in the government, I went full on. He had absolutely my undying support at that point. And that was really when I started getting more involved with Walkaway, things like that, so that people could have examples of what it looks like to leave the left and do it for reasons that, frankly, have nothing to do with Donald Trump. It was funny, you guys know I've been touring around with Walkaway for several months now, and at the beginning of it, I wasn't even a Trump supporter. It was probably about 4 rallies into our little tour that Brandon kind of pulled me aside one day. He's like, Carlin, are you turning into a Trump supporter? Because I really wasn't at first. That was never my jam. It was always about the bigger principles at play. And so as we are living out this process right in front of us where, the media is declared for Biden, Trump is fighting back, this is going to be fought in the courts over weeks, I want to put a stake in the ground and say, I do not care. I do not care right this second where this battle over the presidency bleeds out, because I think there is a much bigger battle to fight and that is going to continue to be fought. And one of the things that I think is an absolute victory in this election is that identity politics were basically voted down. And that has nothing to do with whether or not Donald Trump ends up pulling it off or Joe Biden gets inaugurated. The American people spoke on identity politics and they said no. Now, Biden gave a little speech last night where he was like, we have a mandate to fight systemic racism, and he is a liar. And I will come on this channel every single time, if Joe Biden ends up as the president of the United States, I will come on this channel every single time and call him out for being a lying liar, because there is absolutely zero mandate to fight systemic racism. In fact, what the American people said on election night was that they do not want identity politics any longer, and I am going to prove it. But before we get into that, folks, just a quick reminder. Listen, I did meet my 100,000 subscriber goal by election day, but something's funny has been going on in the last week where I've now been bleeding subscribers from this channel. Now, listen, I don't know if there's anything nefarious involved. Certainly, if you don't want to be subscribed to my channel, I welcome you to click that unsubscribe button, and that's just fine as well. But I want to make sure that if you want to be subscribed to this channel, if you want to get the daily content, not daily in the last week because I've been really busy with the election, but now that things are settling down, I do plan on getting back into my groove of doing daily content around news, culture, politics, things like social justice and critical race theory, basically whatever I find interesting. I'm going to ask for you to click that red subscribe button down below. If you think you're subscribed, make sure you just double check it for me. I've got a lot of really cool things planned now that the election is over. I'm really excited about it. And if you want to take this ride with me, please make sure you are subscribed if you want to be. All right, let's talk about why I believe that identity politics was clearly voted down in this election. I've got 3 articles. We're going to read little snippets of each. This one is from the New York Post. This was from November 4th. Despite racist charges, Trump did better with minorities than any GOP candidate in 60 years. For 4 years now, Democrats and their media allies have tarred President Trump as a reprehensible white supremacist leading a dying party. The Trumpian populist GOP they claimed was doomed to become a regional rump party whose electoral prospects were tied to a shrinking share of bitter, downscale whites. That narrative was always bunk. It finally died once and for all on Tuesday evening. Listen, I saw this play out right in front of me for months at Walkaway rallies. Walkaway rallies are some of the most diverse rallies that you are ever going to see. I remember we were in Nashville and there was a media guy there and he wanted to do interviews with all of us. And I said to him, he kind of asked me a couple questions, and then he left it open, and he said, is there anything else you want to add? And I said, yes. Walk away is for everyone. First off, it's not about being a Republican. It's not even about supporting Donald Trump. It's just about leaving the left. That's all that walk away is about. It's about really leaving political extremism. And frankly, you can even describe that on the right as well. There are political extremes on the right, but that is what walk away is about. It's about leaving political extremism and coming to a place of common sense. And that's for everyone. You don't have to be a certain political persuasion. You don't have to vote for a certain candidate. You don't have to be a certain race. You don't have to be a certain gender. You don't have to be a certain sexual orientation. And so I kind of explained that to this media guy, and we wrapped up the interview, and he turned off his camera and he leaned into me and he said, I was actually really surprised to come here because I really thought this was just going to be a bunch of old white men, and it wasn't. And so they were surprised as well. But I've seen this right in front of me for months now. This is not surprising to me by any stretch of the imagination. Let's keep going. Team Trump and Republicans nationwide made unprecedented inroads with Black and Hispanic voters. Nationally, preliminary numbers indicate that 26% of Trump's voting share came from non-white voters, the highest percentage of GOP presidential candidates since 1960. Now that's followed up in the Washington Times here, which talks about how LGBT voters came out for Donald Trump too. Prominent Democratic Party activists unironically decried President Trump as the worst president on LGBT issues ever and claimed that LGBT people are being attacked every single day by the Trump administration, yet early exit polls from Tuesday's election appear to entirely undercut this alarmism. According to national exit polls, Trump seems to have won an astounding 28% of gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered people votes. To be clear, the unique circumstances of this election could mean this early figure is eventually adjusted, blah, blah, blah. But while only a rough preliminary estimate, it is more than double the 13% of LGBT voters Trump won against Hillary in 2016. Listen, there was a really kind of unofficial poll that came out a while ago that said that 45% of gay men were voting for Trump. Now, I was not on board entirely with the methodology of this poll. It seemed to be a little shaky to me, but what I always said is that if Trump only gets half of that, that is a big deal. That shows that the LGBT community has woken up to the fact that they don't have to vote for just one party. And what did we see? An astounding 28%. That is a little bit more than half of that. I think that is a really, really strong number. Then we have this article from the Wall Street Journal, which came out on Tuesday. Sorry, guys, I've been out for a couple days. I've actually had to catch up on a whole metric F ton of sleep, but we're catching up now on some of these other articles. And they say it wasn't clear by Wednesday afternoon who had won the White House. Now they've officially declared for Biden. Whatever, we're setting that aside for a moment. But one bad idea was soundly defeated on Tuesday: identity politics. The concept that the country should be divided into aggrieved categories based on race, national origin, or sex, now a core tenet of the Democratic Party, lost from coast to coast. It lost in Miami-Dade County, Florida, where Cuban Americans delivered votes for President Trump. We don't know the final margin, but some polls going into the election had the president leading among Cuban American voters by a margin as wide as 38 points, and this should not be surprising to anyone. Guess what Cuban Americans have lived under? Communism. Guess what a vote for the Democratic Party means? Well, I don't think it means communism straight off the bat, but it's certainly a move in that direction, and they are the ones that see all the warning signs of what is going to happen. Identity politics also lost in Ocala County near Orlando, and I'm sure I'm butchering the pronunciation of that, I apologize, where Mr. Trump appears to have done better than expected among Puerto Rican voters. Identity politics lost in South Texas. Zapata County, 95% of Mexican Americans went for Hillary by 33 points in 2016, but Mr. Trump won it with 52.5% this time. Throughout the Rio Grande Valley, President Trump did better in 2020 than in 2016. In Starr County, he only lost by 5 points, 47% to Mr. Biden's 52, compared with a 60-point spread in Miss Clinton's favor 4 years ago. In Jim Hogg County, Mr. Trump lost by 18 points, down from more than 50 points in 2016. In Webb County, Mr. Trump won by 36.6% of the vote, up from 22.8% in 2016. And identity politics even took it on the chin in California, of all places, where voters defeated an attempt to rebuke Proposition 209, the 1996 ballot measure that bans the use of race, national origin, or sex by state universities and other agencies. This, folks, is all really good news. Now, I am committed to the course of, I'm going to say we don't know what the F is going on until the process plays out in the courts. The media has already declared that Biden is the winner. Whatever, they're free to do that. I said that they were going to do that 2 days ago. No one is surprised by that. I still think that we need to wait and see what's going to happen. But regardless, this is actually the thing that I'm most concerned about. This is actually the thing that I think is the absolute biggest win of them all. Would I love to see another 4 years of Donald Trump? Yeah, absolutely. 100%. But if it ends up being Biden, and this is the culture that he is leading, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the Republicans still hold the Senate at the end of the day. Like, listen, they're not going to be able to do the things that they want to do if this is where Trump has moved the culture. And that is actually the most important thing. This idea, first off, I think what Trump has done in terms of evolving the GOP, evolving the Republican Party is phenomenal. It's a really, really good positive step that is going to create a big tent that is more open to different types of people and more palatable to people of all different backgrounds. And what has happened over the course of this election cycle is that people have woken up and that people see that they have a choice. And the momentum is in our favor. And it doesn't matter what happens in the presidency, guys. It just doesn't matter. The momentum is still in our favor as long as you all keep your head about you and you realize what really matters in the grand scheme of things. Again, I'm going to keep saying this because I think it's important to remember it. The presidency is a battle. This is a war. This is the bigger problem, is the culture of this nonsense being infused into absolutely everything. We all know that Joe Biden is going to make decisions based on what the polls tell him to do. And if the polls are telling him that the American people find this untenable, then that is the win at the end of the day. So there are lots of good news to be had. There's a lot of Republicans that want a lot of seats all up and down the ballot. So I feel okay. I feel okay. And I really think that you should too. We always need things. Listen, things only have the meaning that we assign them. They only have the meaning we assign them. If you think something is good, then it's good. If you think something is bad, then it's bad. Assign this the meaning that you want it to have. I think that this is a really good thing. Am I, unimpressed with the way that the presidential race is going? Well, of course I'm unimpressed. I'm unimpressed on several different levels. But at the end of the day, I'm going to take this win and I'm going to hold it tight and I'm going to run with it because these are the things that I care about the most. All right, guys, that's all I've got for this one. I'll see you soon.